I'd wake up every morning thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? What am I doing? But then I'd walk outside and I'd be like, no, this is meant for me. This is actually exactly how it's supposed to be.
I think that's even a bigger courage than packing your bags and traveling somewhere new, to actually go on that inner journey and see what shows up, because it can get very uncomfortable. Hi, and welcome to Beyonder the podcast. I'm your host, V. And in Beyonder the podcast, we go beyond borders, not just country borders, but also inner limitations. And me and my guest, we talk about inner and outer journeys. And I'm very excited for today's episode because I have a dear friend with me today. And we're going to be talking a lot about her journey of quitting her job, traveling, and the whole inner journey that comes with it, and all the personal and spiritual growth as well. So let's just dive right in. Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah,
It's so nice to be a part of this podcast.
yeah, and I'm excited that you're here. Also, not just for the podcast, but that you're visiting.
Yeah.
We have been seeing each other on and off in different countries over the
for
years.
a long time now. Yeah.
Yeah. So the first question that I always ask my guests is, how do you live your life beyond the ordinary?
I live my life beyond the ordinary with intention. As in, over the years, I have gained an ability or an insight, or whatever you want to call it, to look at my life objectively and think, how do I want to live my life? And make sure that the actions that I take and the flow and the alignment that I'm in matches the actual vision that I want in my life. And by vision, I mean more of an inner feeling of joy or happiness, of freedom. So I think that would pretty much sum that answer up.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's so important to listen to that inner voice and make those decisions out of alignment.
Mm-hmm.
That's take it a step back a few years when you decided to just quit your successful career and change your whole life, basically.
Yeah.
Like, how did that process happen? How were you able to make that decision? And then how did things go from there?
So back in the day, this was officially 2 years ago, I was an executive producer and broadcast director. So I would work, very long hours, and I loved my job. I'd been in film and television for about 20 years. So it's something that I always knew and I'd always been around, and something that I was very good at and that I just naturally loved. However, there was always this little fairy thought whispering in my ear, thinking, okay, this is great, but there's more. And I think a lot of people feel that way when they are in a constraint or in a society that sort of is built around the concept of a 9 to 5 or a job where you have to go to the office or, be physically present.
Mm-hmm.
And COVID, as horrible as that period was, did definitely alter the status quo in terms of how people actually wanted to live.
Mm-hmm.
So after COVID, that definitely was something that struck with me, like, I actually want to live my life making it look like this. I had no idea how I was going to get there or how it would happen. I just sort of trusted that it would. And I was planning just a very short vacation overseas. Maybe it was very short. By very short, I mean 2 months. Because I would save up all my annual leave, and then the organization I used to work for was very flexible, and it was a great it would let me do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I went overseas. I went to Europe for a friend's wedding, and then a few things happened in terms of family, and that required me to stay longer.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I got to a point where I thought, I can't go back. And it was just an inner feeling of, if I go back, it's going to make me nauseous. It's going to make me sick. I guess it was an epiphany of how I was living my life with that amount of stress, and that amount of work was just not conducive to living healthily and happily. So the process took a little bit, because I was talking, to my organization, and they were great, but I just got to a point where I said no more, and I quit my very successful, very well paid job. And by that point, I think the point of resistance was staying, even in that great life that I'd built, was going to be harder than leaving. Fast forward 2 years, hindsight, right? It's been extremely challenging. People see the fact that I travel maybe every couple of months. I just got back from 3 months in the States, and I live in Bali for 6 months of the year. I come back home to Australia. I go to Europe often. I go to Mexico. Like, people see that, and it's like amazing. And there's part of me that feels like it is, but it's also dealing with limiting beliefs around financial abundance, dealing with the fact that your family is still away. You have friends all across the world, which is wonderful, but there's still a yearning of a sense of community. There's still a part of you that once the traveling factor that you have given yourself that starts to wear off, you sort of start to notice the parts of you that seek stability and seek community and seek inner sense of peace. And I'm a big believer that even though you do travel a lot on the physical sense, you can still have those things within you. However, after 2 years of traveling the world and starting to work on my own business and starting to really make my life look how I want to experience it, I'm at a point where I do want a bit of stability. So it's like, okay, well, I've given myself this. Now I actually want to give myself something new. And how does that look like? And really actively thinking, actively listing, even though I'm a creative, so I don't list. I'm just like, oh,
You imagine.
you just imagine, right? And you just feel, and you smile, and it makes you feel good. However, creating those little lists of, okay, I actually want to spend X amount of time here, X amount of time there. How do I make this in between happen whilst giving my nervous system and my inner being peace, so it doesn't feel stressed? And when I say figuring out, I think that once you have a list of things that you want your life to look like, faith that it'll just happen is key. Like, I know what I want my life to look like, and I just believe that in one way or another it'll happen. So long as you don't place time constraints, which is something that I obviously still deal with every day. Like, it's like, I want this to happen now, but you've got to just let the universe and source just flow through your life as well, and just let things have their own timing. Because if you want certain things, I believe you also have to match the energetic frequency of what those things hold for you. And if in life plan A, your inner being isn't matching that, things will evolve so you can eventually slip into the life that you want. Some things you just need to learn in terms of how to manage, even on a practical basis. Traveling so much is a classic example, because we think of travel as something wonderful, and it is. On the other hand, you're dealing with constant jet lag. Your nervous system goes into override. Your indigestion, your anxiety for flying. There are certain things that you have to pay attention to. So I guess you build up to be able to live a certain life, regardless of what that looks like. So it's been both the physical journey of the travel and making it look amazing and meeting community, but it has also been the biggest. That's the 10%. The actual getting on the plane and going to the places is 10%.
Yeah.
It's the inner alignment and the inner part that is the bigger thing that no one sees. So, that's your own thing, and it is about just listening to yourself.
Yeah. Do you feel like since you've started and until now, like in those past 2 years, that listening to your inner self has changed or grown throughout those travels? Because I love what you said about traveling is just 10% and the rest is this inner journey. Because I also always say, wherever you go, you take yourself, right? It's not just traveling is in that sense just the catalyst for everything else. Do you, if you look back, really feel like, oh, I see these changes within myself?
Gosh, yes. It's like going from two different people. And in between that, there's so many versions of me that have emerged. And it's very much the ability to notice your own change, which is a practice in itself. I think the more you notice, just from an objective point of view, I guess it's like becoming the observer of your own actions. And that form of it's not so much emotional intelligence, but it's a different form of intelligence, that ability to observe yourself without placing any sort of judgment or fear, or without conditioning that response, but being able to just see the road in which you have come from and see the changes that you have made, and being like, oh wow, I did that. I actually have done that. I recently had this moment. I was in New York, which is one of, it's where I feel most at peace and most at home in the entire world, which is very ironic for a place like New York because it's pure chaos. But for me, it's like I've lived there many past lives, and anyway, it feels like home. Anyway, I was in New York recently, and I was walking through Central Park, and I sat down, and it was just this realization that I sat down on a bench that had been the desktop of my work laptop for over 5 years. And when I sat down on that bench, I thought, oh my God, this is what I'd been looking at every day for 5 years. And every morning at work, I would sit down and just look at that desktop, that photo of Central Park, and just I was just there. I had no idea how that was going to look or anything. I think the more self-awareness you bring to your travels, to going beyond, to the more aware you are of your own journey, the more your own world expands. And then the more you actually end up wanting and saying, okay, well, look at the inner journey that I've been through in the last 2 years. And I think that is the 90% of that traveling journey, is that travel can be great for culture and, exposure to different people, to the way the world works in many different ways. But it also brings you an inner awareness of how we live our lives on a day-to-day basis, which can change drastically, and it can make you more grateful from that perspective.
Yeah. And how have you dealt with this unknown? Because when you started traveling, you had no idea that it was going to be 2 years, or right? Like there was no sort of time frame, or where you would travel to, or how long you would stay in a place. So it's very much open. And I think on one hand, that's like the ultimate sense of freedom, right? That you're like, okay, I can basically go wherever I want to go, stay as long as I want. But I can also imagine that it can bring a lot of uncertainty or instability. How was that for you, and how did you manage to deal with this unknown, basically? Yeah.
I think it still is unstable and unknown and uncertain. It's just shifted in that nature. So back in the day, when I first started this specific time of my life, it was more of a like travel physically led type situation, where I had to sort of go, how am I getting from A to B or B to A? And it was little things like booking one-way tickets instead of return flights, and giving myself the ability to not put myself under any pressure in terms of planning necessarily. So, for example, I was in Tulum for about 6 weeks, and then wanted to go to Peru, and I booked 6 hours before my flight. So just doing those things was very much just leading from a place of being aware of the fact that I have nowhere to be, nowhere to go, so I could do anything I want. And that was it revealed a lot in terms of what a person can do in those circumstances. The challenges, the big ones for me were predominantly around finances, because had this mentality of having to work so much and being truly in that specific area. But gradually, the more you open yourself up to freedom and to the happiness that comes with that, and the realization that I guess it's just an indoctrination to having to have a stable job or those specific office parameters, whereas you can actually create any life that you want, and it'll just come with time, and have the patience for it to just come to you rather than having to constantly struggle to get there. Like, yeah, I'd wake up for a solid 6 to 8 months. I'd wake up every morning thinking, what am I doing? 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 But then I'd walk outside and I'd be like, no, this is meant for me. This is actually exactly how it's supposed to be. And the rest of it is all your brain telling you, we don't feel safe right now because you're doing something that you haven't done before. Please give us some calm and relaxation, because please give us some stability. But the more you push through that, the more you sort of overcome and you sit with those thoughts. So yes, those thoughts of my mind telling me we don't feel at peace right now because you're not giving us what we need, which is safety. But that safety for that version of me meant financial safety. Like, where is our stable income on, us very good stable income? We're not getting that right now. And it's making us twitchy and nervous. But what I would do is literally sit down, and not so much as a meditation practice, more from a somatic point of view, is just visualize where I felt that, how it was coming up in my day-to-day basis, and just let those voices come up and tell them, I would physically say to them, I hear you, but we have to go through this period of change for us to also be able to grow. And just by not suppressing the voices and not by saying it's fine, or, you don't exist, it actually made me feel calmer, and my body would gradually started to shift into a calmer, nervous system state. So those were the big ones, I guess. Just the thoughts that would display also with physical symptoms of like nausea or tightness in my stomach, or like a lot of tension in my shoulders. Just paying attention to those and working through them actively rather than suppressing them, which is why I would said at the beginning of our conversation how important it is to have that awareness of your own journey, because it's not just a factor of the traveling on the outside, but how certain issues that you might not know you had, and it's not just one layer of them, there's about 20 different layers of them, like an onion. So I always describe it as like the onion peeling. And each and every time something different will come up. It's also the knowing that as these things come up, they're not just going to stop. Like they have, like I said, they have layers to them, and they might show differently. They might just come up differently in a way that you weren't awakened to, or that you had no idea that you were even doing. A classic one for me was using travel as an escape, as escapism. And for the first part of after I quit and then I went on my journey, that was definitely a form of escapism in terms of like, I wanted to run away from the life that I felt chained to. And I just wanted to travel the world and feel free. And then gradually, as I gave myself what I truly wanted, it started to shift into an awareness of, okay, I think I'm doing this out of a necessity to escape. Yeah, just there is no expectation either that if that's something that people do, which a lot of people do, that you fix it or heal it or change it. But it's just bringing awareness of every time that I know that I feel like traveling, I actually ask myself the question, am I traveling because I want to go to this place and experience something different, or am I traveling because something's feeling a little bit off and I just want to like put a Band-Aid over it for a while? But even the awareness in itself of asking yourself the question, and even if the answer is yes, I actually want to escape for a bit, that's okay. Escape away, but at least you're aware that you're doing it, and that you can work through things as you do travel, and really ask yourself those sorts of questions. So that was something that came up for me a lot over the last couple of years, and definitely things happen where I was like, I'm out. Check out. I'm gone. I'll come back when I'm ready, and I'd work through that as I would do it. Nowadays, I don't really want to escape. I travel because I usually want to go and see friends or spend time with people that I have chosen in my life. So connections and family, it's just because I miss certain people, and I want to experience them in those countries and those cities. So it's shifted. It's shifted a lot, and just by allowing the process to happen and letting it be is where I'm at.
Yeah. No, thank you for sharing that, because I think it's such an important topic. Also, what you shared about, using travel to escape, because I feel a lot of people are in that loop sometimes of there are things going on internally, but it's like, oh, I'm just going to travel and that will sort of magically heal whatever is going on the inside. And then you realize you're in another place and you still feel like restless or confused or whatever it might be. And then you're like, oh, maybe I should go somewhere else. And you keep on sort of escaping what's going on the inside. And I loved what you shared of actually sitting with those thoughts and having that awareness of like, okay, wait a minute, what's actually going on? What is my body telling me, instead of suppressing it? Because I think often that's a thing we do as the first reaction. Let's just suppress it and try to move on with our lives. Like, at least in my experience, I've also been doing that. And I think once you start exploring more and that you're actually not afraid of listening to what's going on, that's when you can have a conversation with yourself and start healing things or start processing things. But it does also require courage to, I think that's even a bigger courage than packing your bags and traveling somewhere new, to actually go on that inner journey and see what shows up, because it can get very uncomfortable. You learn a lot about yourself, but
very uncomfortable.
What you said about those onions,
very uncomfortable.
And I often call it like unpacking, right? But it's like, there's always another layer, and you're like, oh my god, when is this over? Am I, but there's not
when
really,
does it stop?
But there's not really a destination in that sense. It just keeps on going.
Exactly, and it keeps going until you just become comfortable with it and just allowing it to be without the need to change it, or the acceptance that is your person. And yes, you can change it, or you can just be that person.
Yeah. And have you done any other things that you feel like, oh, this has really helped me on my journey, like besides what you mentioned, like more the somatic practices, or just really just sitting with yourself and getting comfortable with that discomfort? Are there any other practices looking back that you feel like, oh, this has really helped me, this is really something maybe that you still do regularly to have those moments to tune in?
Yeah, I'm a breathwork facilitator, so breathwork for me is a big one.
Yeah.
But breathwork, I think, was one that I predominantly used when I was going through like the big, deep emotional shifts, and I think I use breathwork to crack the surface and to go deep. I still breathe a few times a week. I don't do it as much as I should. But that is something that really allows me to tune into anything that is prevalent in my life at that time. It'll come up. Like, just because it exists doesn't mean you have to heal it necessarily at that time in your life. Like, you can just live your life, and when the timing is right, you can go for it. There is an over, and culprit number one, the tendency to overfix yourself.
Yeah.
Or to want to overdo, oh, this is me. I need to change me. I need to be better. Like, no, you don't have to overfix yourself. You can just let it happen let it flow more. So breathwork is a big one. I also started to integrate breathwork with somatic practices at the same time. The main one that I use now is similar to just the sitting, but it's also like as I'm walking through a street, it's just maybe just let my thoughts loose and just talking to them and just looking at them from those perspectives. And some people like to journal and get those things down, but talking to a few people that I trust emotionally, that give me a sense of emotional safety, that I know that they're not, where I don't feel judged by what they're going to say, and that it's just an open, wide conversation of, hey, I'm having these feelings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and some of these feelings are actually about you, but I know that these feelings about you are actually about me. Can we speak about them? And so you speak about those emotions in a third person, rather than feel and be in like the trenches of those emotions that you're having, either with yourself or with someone else. It's literally just as a third person perspective. So it's actually just having a really open, honest conversation about yourself and being prepared to hear the hard things about yourself. But knowing that those things that are hard to hear, they just are things. That it doesn't necessarily mean that that's you. It just means that it's a result of who you had to become to protect yourself, to feel safe, to trust.
Mm-hmm.
So really, really applying that third person perspective on the topic that you're talking about rather than taking it so personally all the time. And a lot of people would say, well, that's also an avoidant mechanism to not have to feel that emotion. And to me, it's two-factor. You can see and talk about whatever it is that you're going through from that third person perspective.
Mm-hmm.
However, there does come a time that at some point you do have to feel that emotion somatically and let it through your body and let all those emotions come up and actually let them affect you, because there's so much power in letting emotions affect us and giving them the voice that they want to have.
Yeah. No, I resonate with that. It's also something that sometimes comes up in my coaching. Like often in coaching, we call it being a fly on the wall. It's like you're an observer and you are looking at the situation and literally what you said, like as sort of a third person, or even, you zoom out, or even as if you're watching a movie, for example. And it's what you said, not about avoidance, but actually getting clarity on what is going on from different perspectives. And that sometimes can be really helpful to actually understand why you responded in a certain way in a certain situation, for example, or what the perspective from the other person is, or things like that. And what you said, then afterwards, with that clarity, you can actually go look at yourself again and be like, now I understand why I respond in this way, or whatever it might be, right? And then to process that and heal. So I love that you shared it as well, because it's there's so many different techniques, or however you want to call it, right? But just to be open and have that conversation with a friend, or having that safe space with someone, it's so important, because we can do a lot on our own, but sometimes we also actually need to be open to receive feedback or support from other people. And if I think about my own journey, I had for a long time that I was like, I can figure this out by myself, I don't want to bother anyone else with, my own inner struggles or whatever. Sometimes there's even maybe shame as well, that you feel like, oh no, I'm not going to share this with anyone. So in that sense, I think it's already healing when you have someone to have a conversation with. Like even that sharing can already be so shifting in itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And another big one that I know you'll connect with is dancing.
Yes.
So dancing for me was never a thing. Like I liked to go out dancing and that sort of thing and just move, but it became a big tool for me when dancing just became my own self-expression, and I would allow certain emotions to come up as I dance and just worked through them as I was dancing. And I was just get into my own personal bubble, and it just feels so like healing on like a DNA level, right? That's all I can describe it as. But dancing was a big one for me, just the movement, the somatic movement that comes up with that a lot.
Yeah. I know you mentioned in the beginning as well that one of the challenges of traveling so much is jet lag. And that I think is such a big disruption for your body, for your health, like switching time zones.
Yes.
Being on long flights. I mean, you just had how long was your flight? Like,
so this recent one, it was 23 hours on the plane, but overall it was about 29 hours.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It was a lot.
Yeah, so it switches your whole biorhythm and everything.
Yeah.
So do you have special things you do to reduce the effects, especially after so much traveling? I'm sure you found some things that perhaps works for you to feel better in the process of adjusting. Yeah.
Definitely. I mean, which comes from just pre-organizing those flights that you do book in terms of the time of arrival in a new country, and then calculating your sleeping pattern on the plane before you arrive. So, for example, landing in Sydney was 7 a.m. and I didn't sleep 6 hours before. because I couldn't, not because I didn't want to. I was trying to, make sure that I slept in the time zone of that country on the plane. No naps during the day, if possible. I mean, I drink coffee. I like coffee, but I try not to have any coffee after 11:30, just because some chemicals in our body, like the adenosine, they just need to relax into that phase of when you arrive into a country. Magnesium tablets, depending how you react to magnesium, if you take them in the morning or the night, but they help with digestion tract. At least 3 liters of water every day for a solid week, and half of those have to be as electrolytes, just to help after the cabin pressure and rehydrating your body. What else? Sunlight, direct sunlight, which people should do as a practice every day anyway. 15 minutes of direct sunlight every morning to lower your cortisol levels. But going for a walk in the morning from 7 till 9 will help your circadian rhythm adjust to the light, the actual sunlight. So one thing that my brain has been skipping beats on is that it's thinking it's 6 p.m. with just by the lighting, but it's actually 2 p.m. here. But by doing certain practices outside in the daylight and being exposed to lighting, sun, shadowing, it actually tells your brain, oh, we're in a different country, we need to react differently. Just being exposed to nature, grounding, is just so nurturing for everything. What else? Protein. I have protein in the morning because it kicks my body into wanting to be energetic. And I don't have any protein, or I try not to have protein at nighttime, because for the same reason, I don't want it to be active. I want to sleep. And then I think if you do wake up during the night, the key is to not look at your phone or any screen. Like, it's just stay in the dark. Just keep telling your brain to go back to sleep.
Count some sheep.
Count some sheep. Like last night, I woke up at, I think I managed to stay awake till 10. Was it 10 o'clock?
I think around that time.
And then I woke up at 3:20 and I was like, no, go to sleep. So then I woke up at 6:45. So it is sort of listening to your body. And you can, like with AI now, you can really set up your own little parameters, and sticking to that, it'll help you instantly. It's not something that you feel the effects of over a week. Within the first day, you'll already start to feel better.
And of course, especially with such a long journey, it takes a little bit anyway, right? But I think what you just mentioned, all of those things, and they might be different for different people, right? We all have different bodies, but it's good to know what's out there and to try and see how your body responds to it. And especially what you said, some things are just basic that you should do anyway, right? Like the direct sunlight, but sometimes we just forget about it, I think, with just busy daily life and things like that.
And like, I have my little protocol that I do. Do I stick to it all the time? No. I'm human. If I want a coffee at 3 p.m., I'm going to have a coffee at 3 p.m. I know I'm going to regret it, but like, just take it with a grain of salt as well. However, it will help you a lot. Also, the awareness that you're not going to get over your jet lag in a few days, because your body, even though you're sleeping properly, your body's actually recovering from not just a time zone change, but also a country change, new rules, new society, new the cabin pressure in itself. There's a whole heap of things that your body's getting reacquainted to. So it's not just being aware that your body's going through a lot during that time, and just be kind to it.
We were talking about that yesterday as well, right? You're like in this cabin going so fast through the sky and, crossing the world, and so much happens also energetically, and then just suddenly in a different place, and your nervous system also has to catch up to that.
Exactly.
It's a completely different energy. Also, what you said, like New York feels very different than Sydney, right? Like energetically speaking as well.
Very, very different. Just the amount of people that walk the streets. Like what you said yesterday, that you sort of, it doesn't feel like a very full city, Sydney. And whereas New York, it's just, in some sections of New York, can feel like a sardine can, just in terms of how you're walking and the amount of people around you, and how things work, even like crossing the street, and it's also fast. So your brain adjusting, I guess, mentally relaxing as well into different ways of being in different ways of life. I think it's a very important thing when you travel, if you, as a nomad, or if you're just someone that does that a lot, is to consider the actual places you go to from the perspective of a calm nervous system. For example, if you go from, say, New York to London to Paris, you're going to be think of it twitchy.
Yeah.
Because it's a constant, you're constantly in hypervigilance, I guess, to some extent. Even though it's a great, you're on holiday or whatever, you're still going to be constantly being aware of so much happening around you. Whereas if you plan a little bit from the perspective of going from an intense city to maybe going to the country or going to somewhere tropical and just switching gears so your body can actually relax into that, being a nomad in terms of traveling a lot, you can actually do that for longer. And then calculating in longer amounts of time in each place that you go to, and doing less switches between accommodation, and just giving yourself a base, and then just doing micro trips around. These are all things that just add to your general well-being as a human, and not having to constantly think about the next step, because our body is wired to want safety and protection.
Yeah.
To actually just give yourself that, and then just do everything else. Everything else becomes secondary to that. So just that longevity of wanting to travel so long is to definitely think a little bit about yourself. You're human. And the more, if you're, I guess, spiritually inclined, or you deal a lot with, and you're very sensitive to energies, you will be more aware of how your body responds in different places.
Yeah.
So to bear that in mind as well, like, what kind of energy will this city give me? Like, I just spent 3 months in the States, and I was in New York 6 weeks. And before that, I was in California with some other friends. So very different vibes.
Yeah.
Before that, I was in Australia. And before that, I was in Bali. So it was all like
Different.
a little different, and different experiences. So Bali will give me that intense spiritual, energetic way of life that is also very relaxing and chill, even though it can be a bit crazy chaos. But then going to a place like New York, it's experiencing life on a different level. And that's how I like to travel, is like, what type of experience do I want to gain from that place in terms of my inner being and my expansion? So travel as a mechanism of expanding the self, and what is it exactly that you want, rather than thinking about the stock standards of travel, which is culture and landscapes and towns and museums, but more of a, what does my soul want to feel when I'm in those places?
Yeah, that's beautiful. That really aligns with how I see travel as well, like in a way of, to make it a transformational experience, not just ticking off a bucket list, but what you said, how can I actually do something that lights up my soul, right? And being very intentional of the experience you're looking for, and what a certain place can give you. I think also different places bring out different parts of you sometimes. And then it's definitely about, okay, which phase am I in right now? Am I looking for this bit of a chaotic experience or relaxing, or I think that's an important thing to ask yourself, especially I think when you're traveling so much. But also if you just, have a limited amount of vacation days and you actually cannot travel that much, it's maybe even more important to ask yourself, okay, what do I want? Because what I often hear as well is that people just come back home exhausted. So it's almost like you need a vacation after your vacation.
Yes.
And then it's like, okay, maybe you didn't choose the type of trip or travel experience that actually matched with what you needed, right? To make it really feel aligned. Do you have any idea where you want to travel next? Is there anything on your vision right now? I know before we spoke about still being in this unknown and instability, and that's also just part of the journey of life anyway, I think. I feel like even when we make plans, you never know actually what's going to happen. But is there anything on your radar at this moment?
Yes. What's on my radar at the moment is inner stability, and just feeling a sense of groundedness in a place. Not necessarily one place, maybe two places where I would spend my time in, say, a 12-month period. just to have that contrast of living that we spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
But I am at a point now where I'm thinking where I just want to be grounded in a place to develop my business, to develop my community, to just live a bit more peacefully.
Mm-hmm.
And then travel will always be there. Like, it's not something that will go away. And I obviously will always do like little micro trips here and there. But I think it's primarily a state of being that I want. That's on my radar, and just having that flow of soul alignment with the place that I'm in,
Mm-hmm.
and just feeling at peace with the place that I'm in, and really paying attention to how does this place make me feel? Do I want to be here? Do I not want to be here? Do I want to be, and make that happen, make that alignment happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I think we're so focused on doing and like, what do I do next?
Mm-hmm.
When we think about, oh, everything is unknown. Okay, what am I going to do? And I love what you said, like, okay, I'm going to focus on being.
Yeah.
And from that place, new steps will show up. But
Exactly.
actually to flip it around and to focus on, okay, who am I being, or who do I want to be in the future? Yeah, I think also in my own experience that really has given me some shifts and clarity, and to take that pressure away of like, oh, I have to be doing a lot of things. But actually, like, okay, let me just first, be as a human being, right? Yeah. Yeah. I know we covered a lot, and I loved how we spoke about all those different layers of travel, actually, that it's not just going somewhere, but actually the whole inner journey that comes with it, and then also the different layers in that inner journey.
I think one thing that I would say is, and I think this ties into a bit more of like your background and what you do with your business, is allowing yourself to be taken to the place where you're meant to be. So, for example, if you want to relocate to another country, just trust that once that is in your sphere, that those ways will reveal themselves. And I know this sounds, a lot of people will be like, what? What do you mean? Just trust that it'll reveal. Like, yes, trust that it'll reveal whilst making the steps for it to happen at the same time. But it's a dance of the two together. And really knowing that those practical things that you do have to do to be able to go to a country or to live a certain way of being also have to match your internal reality. So the expectations that you have on yourself, first and foremost, of I want to go and live, say, in Paris because, it's Paris. How am I emotionally going to be able to handle moving to a place like Paris?
Yeah.
I might not know the language as much. It might be even more isolating when you don't know the language. So how am I going to find community? So how, these little things, it's nice to be aware that they are, but also just allow the process to happen at the same time without stressing too much, without worrying too much. The more stress and worry that you apply to it, the more the end result will be stressful. So really having that mental strength to not let the bad voices have at it so much, listening to them, making sure that they're content, but really working your way through that on an inner level, because the external will figure itself out.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Trusting that whatever needs to happen will happen, but then also taking the steps. Yeah. And then together, that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. I really love our conversation.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. And what you said, we can talk about it for hours. So maybe you just have to come back another time.
Always.
Just to visit us anyway.
Yes.
So. And yeah, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, let us know. You can leave a review below this episode, or you can just send me a DM or an email as well. And don't forget to follow and subscribe so that you stay up to date on future episodes. And it will also help me grow the podcast. So thank you so much. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you.
Thank you.